All right, everybody, welcome to the 2026 Mystery Game Jam results presentation. Um, this was our third game jam that we've done, and I would say it's been another successful one. We had a lot of games that were made by a lot of passionate people. I could tell from playing the games that everyone had put a lot of time and energy into their entries, and for that, uh, it is a really, really. Um, oh, one moment here. I need my notes on the screen so I know what to say. All right. Um, yeah. So congratulations to everyone who participated because it's not easy to do what all of you did, even if you didn't finish your game completely. Even if you got some of it done or whatever amount that you were able to get done, or quite honestly, even if you missed the deadline, at least you tried. And that's more than what a lot of people can say. So the important thing is to understand that this is a learning experience and no matter what happens, and I hope that you had fun during it, and I hope that you'll continue to have fun making games in the future, because for me, I started making games actually, believe it or not, 20 years ago was the first time I opened a game engine. I was using Game Maker actually, and that's when I taught myself how to make video games. It's 20 years ago, and you know during the jam, I just saw a lot of people were saying this is my first game, and it took me back to that time period in my life where I was thinking about the first games I had made, and I saw a lot of that, and that was really nostalgic for me, but also sort of inspiring in a way, that I'm able to actually encourage people to make their own first games the way that I did. So um, I'm really excited to share the results with everyone, regardless of how you may have performed. I just want you to know that you know you have time to grow, you have time to develop your skills more, you have more time to do whatever it takes to achieve the goals you want to achieve. So just keep going at it no matter what, okay? And hopefully you just have fun along the way. All right, so some fun facts about this jam. This year we had more than 60 entries, which is actually a new record. So technically we had fewer participants by, I guess you could say 20% fewer participants this year, but we had more entries. So that's really fascinating. I think it means that people are, this year, were more, uh, I guess, together in a sense of, really wanting to participate. We got people this year who are more excited, maybe, or a more, uh, maybe a more consolidated group of people who were focused on shipping entries instead of just, signing up and not doing anything. So um, that's pretty cool. It's a new record. Overall, I recorded, like I said before this, I recorded every playthrough that I did, and when I add up all the times across them, it's over 25 hours of video. So, so that's just me, right? So I was playing all the games as a judge, and then there were the two other judges who we'll get to in a minute here. Across the three of us, it's at least 75 hours of playthroughs we've done. So, but 25 plus hours is another new record. It's more hours than we had last year too. So we're getting more entries and they're getting longer. So I'm gonna have to figure something out for next year because we barely had enough time to judge them all in the time frame that we had. Honestly, I was a little scared we would run out of time ourselves. So that's cool. From your guys' perspective of being able to make really long games in a short amount of time. That's pretty cool. It makes it a little hard to judge though when everyone's game. You have 60 entries that are, you know, maybe half an hour each on average. So that can be a lot to do, but it's pretty cool. We also had more than 10 different game engines. We had, off the top of my head, uh, Unity, Unreal, RenPy, Godot, GameMaker, uh, Monogame, which is a C# framework, and we had someone build their own custom C++ engine, which is pretty cool. I've done that before, um, and we've had people doing just pure JavaScript, TypeScript kind of stuff, which I've also done. So a lot of cool game engines and frameworks and tools were used to make the games. A pretty wide variety. I was really impressed by that. Nobody really was like stuck on one particular engine. RPG Maker was another one I forgot to mention, and I think Twine was another one. There're just so many. Um, there were just so many different tools people were using. So it just kind of shows that mystery games can be made with any game engine when you think about it. Um, Also, we had since I collected my spreadsheet of data, right? So we've got 50% of entries were full games. The other half were either some amount of prototype or demo or otherwise unfinished. So that's also interesting, and it kind of tracks with what we had last year. Um, it's roughly in the same area. Um, so this is kind of an interesting stat, which is that it's tough to make a full game even of 30 days. Um, Also, 50% of entries were by solo developers. So that's an interesting stat. I don't really know what it means, but there you go. Now, when there was a team, the average team size was between 3 to 4 people. If you took the average of people who only were on teams, it was somewhere between 3 and 4. Although I think there were quite a lot of people who were just two on a team. But if you average the number of people on teams, it's somewhere between 3 and 4. And then, very interestingly, 30% of entries used AI. So, like, think about what that means. Over 1/4 of the entries used AI in some form to help build their game. And really interestingly, it was mostly for code and translating the text into English. So, these were not predominantly people using, and sometimes when there was AI art, it was, told to be a placeholder, or it was something that, was trying to be in a realistic art style, like a photograph, but it was a photograph that you couldn't really take in real life. So it's like, okay, we can kind of understand that the game wouldn't be possible without it. And there was actually an entry that used AI as a gameplay mechanic. So it's really interesting when you add all these numbers up and see where the trends are going, because last year, I think it was only 5% of entries used AI, and now 30% do. So that's interesting to me, just because I want to see where trends are and, how things are going technology-wise. So cool. Now, the theme was, as we know, running out of time. And boy, I felt that theme. I felt that theme pretty hard when I was judging the entries. I felt like I was the one running out of time. I'm sure you all felt like you were running out of time too, making your games. There's nothing more pressurizing, I guess, than to have a deadline, because it forces you to act. It forces you to take things more seriously than you would otherwise. And I think, honestly, that's probably the best lesson to take away from this game jam, is that you can push yourself to new limits if you impose a deadline on yourself and try to get stuff done and ship it out. And again, whether it's finished or not, just putting it out there, that is the lesson to learn. Because honestly, as you will see, that's kind of what I'm doing with Mystery Maker. So, part of it is just learning, look, to a large extent, you have to realize when to ship your game, and you have to realize that you can spend forever on one particular project if you let it balloon. Ambition, if your ambition is so great, it can balloon really excessively, and you can spend a lot of time on a project that maybe doesn't need so much time spent on it, or maybe it's just fine the way it is and you're overthinking it. So you might be surprised when you put your game out there in a half-finished state and people actually like it more than you anticipated. So I hope maybe that's a lesson some people are taking from this, is that maybe they didn't think that they would be able to do a good job, and they learned that they actually could. So that's sort of a meta theme. The actual theme, running out of time, I saw in terms of various gameplay elements. There were a lot of, I guess you could say, types of entries that did similar things, like where a character was running out of time in the story, whether, they were like, typically it was about someone dying or whatever, like, oh, someone died, therefore they ran out of time, or someone was about to die, therefore they were going to run out of time, but otherwise there were, gameplay themes in terms of like restricting the amount of time that the player had to solve the mystery. Like, it could be a real-time countdown. It could be like turn-based actions that are consumed every time you take a step. So I saw those things a lot across the entries. There was very much, people had sort of the same ideas across that, but they implemented them very differently. And that is probably the most interesting thing about the theme, is that you saw such a wide variety of people's interpretations of it that it was really hard to extract any other like patterns from this. Like last year, I saw a lot of like outer space games or whatever. Technically there were some of those this time too, but like I just really didn't see that many overarching patterns, other than maybe integrating the other themes that we had up for grabs. Like the planted theme, I thought was pretty cool. A lot of people did something involving plants, or what was it called, like No Escape or something like that, No Way Out. People integrated the other themes into this theme, which was pretty cool to see. I could tell when people were doing that. So that was kind of awesome. It didn't give them any more bonus points or anything, but I did think it was pretty cool to see the creativity people had and which themes they leaned toward, and whether they went for more of a realistic story or a fantasy one or whatever it was. So that was just very cool, and I hope people enjoyed the theme, because I know I did. Okay, let's do a recap of who the judges are that are evaluating or had evaluated all of your games. So first is me, Kinja Goldbar. I'm the creator of Detective Butler, and currently working on a sequel to Detective Butler. Then there is Miracle Moon, who is the creator of the Abime series, which is there's Head As Code, there's Birth, Me Code, and then there's Decide for God, which is his latest game that just came out last year. And then finally, there is Locked On, who is the creator of Methods, the Detective Competition, and also just recently released a game called Methods, the Canada Files, earlier this year. So we are all, we're all established, experienced mystery game developers whose games have, each of us, we've had hundreds of positive Steam reviews on each of our games. So, and we've been doing this for a long time, multiple years each. Like I said, for me, the first time I made a video game was 20 years ago. So, but mystery games specifically was more like 15 for me, but that's beside the point. But the point is that we've done this for a long time. And honestly, these two developers, Miracle Moon and Locked On, were excellent to work with. They were very easy to collaborate with. And they couldn't have made my life easier. So I really do appreciate both of them volunteering their time to work with me on the Game Jam here and evaluate all of these games, because they absolutely spent a lot of time and effort doing it. Like I said, more than 25 hours of effort for each of us individually. That is a long amount of time to commit to doing this, and really to take away from what they could be doing, right? They have successful games. They could be making more. Instead, they volunteered to help me out with this. So I do appreciate that a lot, and I would be happy to have them again if they want to next year or any other time. So onward to the judging criteria. Recap for what these are. Again, I won't spend too much time on this, but solvability is just, was I able to solve the mystery? Was it possible? Not just was I able to solve, but did I see that there were, breadcrumbs there for me to latch onto? Did I understand that, was I able to see that foreshadowing was there? Was I able to see that the developer tried to put something in there as a way to sort of give me the information inside the story, so I didn't have to look it up outside the story? So there were various times where there were puzzles, and maybe the game was good otherwise, but if it wasn't really solvable, if it's like, well, I just had to guess the answer or I had to look it up outside of the game, that docked some points for me. Now, surprise. This is sort of similar in the sense that I'm not really judging it based on whether I was surprised. I was more about, was there enough in the story to be considered a misdirection of some sort, such that when a twist was revealed later on, it was reasonable to think that, anyone playing the game should have believed one thing, and then they were told it was something different, and that it was also foreshadowed appropriately, right? So it's not just about, was I personally surprised, because I've seen a lot of things before. So it's more about, am I able to tell that the developer tried to cast blame or suspicion on something in order to direct attention away from what I'm actually supposed to be paying attention toward? So there were some games that did this and some games that didn't do this, right? But that's what I was looking for. Now, curiosity is just the reason why we care enough to solve the mystery in the first place. And this was usually established by, a lot of people did a good job on curiosity, which, by the way, was a really huge point for demos, because, if the demo is just a demo, you don't have an end to it. So I can't really evaluate the solvability or satisfaction or surprise on it, but I can evaluate curiosity as well as interactivity, immersion, and the jam theme. So demos had sort of an advantage, which is that they didn't really need to incorporate those other three elements if they could score really well on the other four. But of course, the best games did well on all seven. But it's just sort of interesting that demos had a unique situation where if they scored really high on, pulling me into it and making me immersed and doing interesting stuff in the demo and making me want to know more, that actually helped it score. So Curiosity is a huge factor. It's like it's the reason why people play your game in the first place. So don't underestimate that when it comes to like actually making a mystery game, right? Outside of the jam, I mean, when you're trying to market your game on Steam or itch or wherever you want to put it, curiosity is the thing that's going to make people actually want to click on it and buy it. So then we have satisfaction, which is just for every question that was opened up, was there a satisfying answer? Was there an answer at all, first off? But then also, was the answer something that makes sense and makes the journey feel like it was worth it? So that's where satisfaction comes into play. There's a lot of mysteries where, you know, you're following it for a very long time and then the answer is revealed and you're like, man, I can't believe I wasted my time on that. And you want to avoid that in your game. So again, that's satisfaction. Interactivity. So specifically when it comes to interactivity, I was looking for a few things. I was looking for, and all of these criteria were listed on the page, but I was looking for 3 specific things, which was the ability to discover information, the ability to make deductions from that information, and then the ability to decide what to do based on that information. So for example, if you have a point and click game where you can maybe look around, you know, you're wandering around a room discovering clues, right? That's one point for that. If you're if you're able to make deductions from something, whether it's reviewing some sort of notes that you have, maybe a journal, or just something that lets you actually think about the game, think about the stuff you've collected in some way, shape, or form. To me, that was another point. And then the decision aspect is, can you actually make a choice as to, who are you going to accuse of being the culprit, if that's the mystery, or where are you going to go to find the next clue? Like different things like, okay, am I able to take the information that I've gathered and thought about and then do something with that? And if it's just me sort of reading a story, clicking and just not really doing much, then it doesn't score high on interactivity. But if I had really compelling ways to do all of this stuff, then it's sort of a little bit higher. And if your game had a really innovative mechanic in it, then I would give it an even higher score, because I really wanted to see unique approaches to interactivity instead of just reading a book like a mystery novel or watching a movie, right? Then immersion. So immersion is not necessarily a mystery specific thing. It's just, any good video game is going to have to be immersive. But with mysteries in particular, it is important because every detail matters. And, the more you get, basically, you can think of it like, you can think of immersion in 2 ways, which is either making the game more immersive, like really absorbing yourself in the atmosphere, and then also things that broke the atmosphere. Like, were there bugs that I encountered? Were there so many typos that I couldn't stop thinking about the typos? Things like that, where it's just, so part of it is, okay, is the art there? Is the music there? Because some people, unfortunately, didn't have time to put music in their games, but you want to have art and music that really makes the place come alive and really make you think that, yeah, I'm analyzing every detail. Every detail actually matters. The designer actually put stuff for me to look at and for me to think about that actually matters in the story. And just all of that attention to detail is what immersion really does. So there was a sort of a double-edged way of looking at that, which is how much are they doing to build up the atmosphere, and then what mistakes are there that take away from that. So to me, that's how immersion was scored. And then the jam theme. So again, as I said a little bit earlier, there's different ways to interpret the jam theme. Obviously, one way is to just have a character who's running out of time in the story, and that's all there is to it. Another one could be putting a literal timer on the screen that counts down. Another one might be tying gameplay mechanics to a time mechanism, so that as you take steps forward in the game or whatever, take whatever actions you take, that brings the timer down, which in turn requires you to plan a strategy out. So that's kind of how I ranked them in terms of my judging, was just that if it was sort of just a background detail in the story, I ranked it kind of low. If it was directly integrated, because whether it's because there's a literal timer or your actions take up time, that scored it higher. And I was really looking for a creative use, and there were some creative uses of the theme that we will get to in a moment here when we talk about the individual games. But those are the judging criteria. What's next on here? What's next on the list? I already forgot. Prizes. Okay, so prizes. Just as a reminder for what the prizes are. First place, second place, third place, and public vote, they all get access to Mystery Maker Studio tier and a newsletter mention and a 1 month website feature. So to be clear about a few things on this, I will do the newsletter mention later this week, as well as the website feature. I'll have to modify the website for this. So it'll take a little bit of time to make that modification, but I'll get those out by the end of the week and have that fulfilled. So don't worry about that. First place, second place, third place, and public vote all get access to the studio tiers at different amounts of time. And so 12 months is for first place, second place is 6 months, third place is 3 months, and public vote is 3 months. And the way that I did this initially, because I really don't like being someone who breaks promises, and as I try to keep them as much as I can. And so I did ask myself at the beginning, what would happen if there was an entry that happened to rank based on the judges. We were impressed enough to rank it first, second, or third. And to clarify, that's what first, second, third means. So the three judges, we tally up our votes, and we sort of decide, okay, this is the best game out of all 60 or whatever. And then we do the same, and we get like the top three. The public vote is all of you deciding. And so I asked myself, well, what happens if the entry that the judges decide on for first, second, or third ends up overlapping with what the public decided? And I ended up just saying to myself, well, if that happens, we'll just add the prizes together, because honestly, it's not necessarily easy to do that. Impressing the judges is one thing, impressing the public is a different thing. And I will say, just to foreshadow something, that's what ended up happening. One of these entries did win the public vote. And I will reveal which one when the time comes. But I do think, especially when I look at the list of entries that were ranked by the public, they were not the same as the what we had ranked in terms of judging. So there were some variations there. And so it really was its own challenge to rank so highly, to actually rank first place in the public eye, because the ones that we had awarded the other places did not quite get there in terms of the public vote. So that's kind of interesting. But so we have different opinions on things, apparently. But as far as the prizes themselves, again, Mystery Maker, we'll explain what Mystery Maker is at the end of this, but it's a new tool that I have built to make the process of making mystery games more fun and easier than ever before. It just does so much. We'll dive into that, but it's an all-in-one tool that makes it easier for you to make your games. So if you struggled with the 30-day time limit here, maybe you'll have an easier time using Mystery Maker. It's sort of my goal. And right now, I will say also, it's still sort of in early access sort of stages, maybe experimental. I'm working things out. I'm trying to see, I'm trying to see how people actually use it. And I want to see what people do with the tool to make it the best tool it can be. So it does work. It is fully functional. It's just not optimized yet. It's not in a state where I would say it's done. And I don't think it ever will be done. It's one of those tools that I'm going to keep updating as I continue to use it, because I will be using it myself. And so you can just think of this as a tool that, if you want to see how I build mystery games, you want to know what tools I'm using, this is it. This is the one that is going to help me out going forward. And I hope it will help you out too. So it's the tool that I wish I had when I first started out doing this. So I really hope it can benefit all of you, because mystery games are really complicated to make. And there's not really any single tool that is built for them, because it is such a complicated type of experience to build. So I will also say, whoever ends up getting the prizes, as well as anyone who decides to purchase Mystery Maker, will be among the first people to ever use it. So you'll be an early adopter, which is pretty cool. And I have nothing special for that other than to say thank you very much for that, because you can help build something really awesome. So now, I think I covered everything I need to say here. So I believe the next slide is the honorable mentions. And so the honorable mentions are 3 games that the 3 of us So they're the games that did not win any of these four prizes here, but games that we still felt the three judges felt deserved a shout out because they were really good. And quite honestly, we could have probably put more than three games on here for honorable mentions, but because there were so many good ones. I would say, I mean, when I look at the specific ordering of the public vote, which you'll see after this is over, I'll publish it, but I would say I generally agree with that. All of those games are good games. But the exact ordering was not the same. But I do agree that, yeah, there's a lot in that list that's like, yeah, I wish I could have given a prize for this one or that one, because they were genuinely good games and in different ways. So there were so many games where either it really excelled on the immersion and the build up, the curiosity stuff, but then sort of just, faded out with the actual delivery of it, or it really nailed the mystery structure of it, but then failed at the curiosity and immersion. Like, it was really tough to get all of these elements right. So first, second, and third, and I guess the public vote, all managed to do that successfully. So I just want to make that clear. Like, there's at least, I mean, we could list like 10 or 15, maybe 20 different games that really I thought were pretty good. But I don't want to spend forever, because I would spend forever talking about all the games, and we have things to do. So honorable mentions, these are the three that each of us picked. So my honorable mention that I wanted to shout out was the River Grove Files, because this was and there were a lot of games like this where there was a computer sim sort of style where you modified, you're reviewing a computer, right? And you're looking through files and digging through stuff to piece together a mystery that had happened. And there were several games that did this, and they were all good, but the River Grove Files did it best because the user interface was so smooth and easy to use, and it was really immersive. For that reason, there were no issues with using it. It really felt like a computer terminal that you would be using in the 90s. And as someone who grew up in the 90s, I can say, but just the feel of it, the ease of use of it was really good. And more than that, the mystery was, to me, it was compelling, because I will say that the River Grove Files was the game that I spent the most time on. I spent well over 2 hours on the game piecing it together. That could be because I'm slow or because there's just a lot of stuff in the game. But for that entire time, I was hooked on it. I was like, I have to figure this out. I wouldn't stop until I'd solved it. So, and I did mostly solve it. I got one thing wrong, but that's okay. It was very solvable, and it tricked me at one point. It did trick me. I misread something that I was supposed to have, if I had been paying better attention, I wouldn't have misread it. But I think I was planted deliberately there as a misdirection. So overall, I think it's really good. And also, I have to mention, you can see the cassette tape on the thumbnail, right? There were some music tracks in the game, and there was one music track in particular that I really liked. I won't spoil it because it's kind of a spoiler, but I was very thrilled with how they decided to approach that one. So, yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. Leanna's Loop is Locked On's nomination, and I see he's here in the audience. Do you want to say anything yourself? Do you want me to bring you up on stage, or should I speak for you? Because I also enjoyed Leanna's Loop quite a bit. I honestly, I enjoyed all of these too as well. Undead Interrogation as well. Sure. All right. See if I can bring Locked On here. Invite to speak. There we go. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, Leanna's Loop. I thought it was a really good use of the jam theme. Like, it seemed like the whole concept had sort of come from the jam theme, as very on theme. So, first of all, that resonated with me. And then, playing through it, it did feel like I was playing another Loop game. Raging Loop a little bit, which I recently completed, where there were some routes where there were just so many twists and they were so well done, and I felt the same way with this one. Like, I won't spoil it, but there's a certain power that is not a time travel power, and I thought the way that that was sort of foreshadowed and set up was really good. Um, and yeah, just very cool to switch between different protagonists, and there was a lot going on within a very short amount of time, and I really liked just having a lot to think about. And each character was very well rounded and had secrets to figure out about them, and yeah, just really well done. And I think they said this was their first Jam game, so that's even more impressive. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I would say the same thing, which is everything you said, but also just the fact that um, it's a good example of what I'm talking about, where there were many different games that was their first game, and I was really impressed by all the first games that people had made. It was like, wow, that's their first game. But the Honest Loop, especially, um, yeah, I was really impressed by it as well. And you did a good job summarizing it. So, um,
yeah, and I'd also like to say I'm really sorry that we couldn't like score prologues higher. Every time it was turned out to be a prologue, I was like, ah, man, ah.
yeah,
Just now I have to,
yeah,
score it a bit lower because it doesn't have a complete mystery. So,
right.
um, yeah, hopefully we can figure out something like
Y-
maybe a separate category for that next time or something.
Yeah, yeah, we might have to make that a separate category, like best demo or something, because I mean, I kind of knew going in last year's we've had demos like that, but there were some really, really impressive demos that unfortunately just didn't have everything in them because they were demos. So, yeah. Um, yeah, we were talking
Yeah.
about Liana's Loop there and other games. I mean, I can mention so many other games that I thought were good, but I'll probably do that after the. If we want to talk more about specifics, I can chat freely in the Game Jam channel after this because I had intentionally not said anything about anyone's games because I wanted to, be fair and keep the suspense kind of built. So if you want to ask my opinions on any games or whatever, we can do that after everything and just chat about it. Sort of casually, not as a judge anymore, but um, but yeah, I was really impressed with the Honest Loop, especially for a first time developer. So keep doing it, keep going at it and finish. Like you have a really good thing there. So complete. Some of it I know is unfinished, so I would say complete it, finish it up, and you have something really good there. So yeah, um,
Yeah. I'll give this full stage back to you. But
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Alrighty. If you need me to remove, there you go. There you go. All right. Get back in the audience. All right. And then here we have Undead Interrogation, also an honorable mention. This was Miracle Moon's recommendation. Um, Again, I'm more than happy to invite Moon to the stage, although I think he's a little uh, shy, so for lack of a better term. So if he wants to join, he can, but or maybe he'll type something in the chat that I can read for you. But as far as my opinions on it, I thought Undead Interrogation was a very strong contender, and that um, it did a lot of things right structurally with mystery. It had all of the beats that you needed to have in a mystery story, and it did really well on that. And it also had a very unique aspect of uh, the jam theme, which was time limited actions uh, for deducing the answer, right? The whole theme of the game is an interrogation with the undead, right? And so you're time limited by that. Each action that you take is supposed to, you only have so much time to interrogate the undead character to get the information from them. And I thought that was a good use of the gameplay mechanic. Yeah, that's right. So Miracle Moon has a full he'll have full detailed thoughts on all of these that he'll release afterward. Um, that goes over everything that he has to say. So look forward to that. And yeah, no problem about the. Very happy to mention the Riverdale files. So very cool. You guys did a good job on that too. Um, yeah. So undead interrogation. Yeah, I think I covered the basics of it. I thought everything really was well done. It was a fleshed out world. There was a world of magic and fantasy that was made it more interesting than just a normal mystery. Whoop, I don't know what that noise was. uh, Windows update. I don't know. Anyway, there was a world of magic and fantasy that made it more of a different kind of mystery than just a traditional one, but it also kept with the structural aspect of what every mystery has a structure to it, and these people who built the game, they know what the structure is and they filled that out. They had the things I was looking for in the criteria. They had that's all. I mean, that's what I can say. They had every aspect of the criteria. They did it really well. But unfortunately, I did experience some bugs that to me made it fall short of a top three. But it was very close. All of these were very close. So anyway, what else? Have we covered everything? Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations to all, everyone really, but the honorable mentions we felt like really deserved a shout out. There's even more games that I wish I could mention here. I'll probably mention them after the presentation's over, but, because we'll just spend all day talking about how awesome all the games are, because they really were. It was really hard to do these. So, with that said, I think the next slide is going straight into third place. So let me get my notes together so I can read. Yeah, okay. Okay, so third place. And so the way that we determined third place was we evaluated each game out of 5, each category, criteria, whatever you want to call it, scored on a scale of 1 to 5. And the best games obviously would be a 5 out of 5. We didn't have any 5 out of 5s. It's kind of unrealistic to expect a 5 out of 5. But I will say third place at a score of 4.35 is An Overgrown Mystery. And this was a game that so we had played the games in different orders. We didn't, I let the judges play whatever games they wanted in whichever order they preferred. For me, I happened to pick this game early on. Maybe that's sort of, maybe the art style was sort of the alluring kind of like, oh, that stands out, or maybe they did a good job with that just to lure me into it. But I was really impressed early on because it was the best game I had played early on, and it stuck in my mind the whole time as I was playing the other games. And I want to show at least a screenshot from the game just so that you can get an idea of what the game is. And I'll go ahead and read the description of each game too. So in An Overgrown Mystery, in a city of tree birdhouses, a young humanoid named Wave works as an investigator, solving various incidents around the city. One day, shortly after recruiting a new assistant, she finds the city suddenly surrounded by wild apple trees. So she and her assistant set off to find the culprit behind this. And so right away, obviously the score is really high in immersion for me because, just look at the art style. I don't know what else to say other than it's really, really beautiful and colorful. And when you actually play the game, a screenshot does not do this justice because, and I also, to be fair, a lot of people's games, I want to mention this, a lot of people's pages for their games did not do their games justice either. A lot of people didn't bother to put screenshots up at all. A lot of people maybe put up screenshots that reflected poorly on their games. But when I actually played them, they looked a lot better than they appeared to be. But this game, even as good as it appears to be, is even better when you actually play through it because there's clearly an attention to detail as far as cinematography is concerned. They had, clearly the developer had an eye for for lack of a better term, cinematography, because the intro is just a fully hand-drawn intro of just like a cutscene explaining the backstory of the world, which opens up curiosity, right? You want to know what this world is all about. There's lore that is just dropped off right at the beginning, and it hooks you in, and it hooked me in because I wanted to know more about that as I played the game. And so, but as you actually play through the game, you'll see there's, backgrounds are used as like camera. I wouldn't say straight up, camera panning all the time, but I would say backgrounds were used intentionally to convey a sense of movement and a sense of watching a movie. Like this game made me feel like I was kind of watching a movie in a sense, or a cartoon, because everything was sort of directed in a way that actually made it very pleasant to just go through. Now, outside of that, this game did a lot of other things, right? Which in particular, I think the interactivity was really, really a strong point. Because the way that the game utilized the jam theme was turn-based battles. So there was a thing that I used for my judging criteria for the jam theme, which was if a game managed to make me think to myself or say out loud that, oh no, I'm running out of time, then that game scored highly on the jam theme, because it made me actually think to myself, I'm running out of time, which couldn't be a better way to incorporate the theme in my mind. So there were several times during the battles that I did run out of time on them. And I had to restart and I had to try again. And the thing was, though, this was not just a disconnected battle system. This was it was integrated into the mystery, because as they were discovering things, they would encounter obstacles. And in order to overcome the obstacles, they had to use their powers that they had. And in order to actually get past the obstacle, the battles were not like RPG battles. They were like turn-based puzzles where you had to do one thing and then another thing and then another thing in the right order. And they were basically puzzles. And when you think about it that way, it just made the whole experience really fun, because I was solving puzzles, like on the surface, it's a battle, but really you're solving a puzzle. And so to me, that was a puzzle mechanic, which made it really entertaining. And also, they did something else with interactivity, which was something that I've never seen before in any mystery game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone else has seen this before, but I believe also Locked On said he had not seen this before, or to him it at least was a unique mechanic in his notes, which is that there's a note-taking or note comparison mechanic where this character on the left, the detective, writes her notes. That's the player character, and as we inspect things, as we point and click, we see notes about the environment as they appear. And then the character on the right is also investigating on his own, but also at the end of the point and click sections, what we're doing is comparing the notes together. And so essentially the idea is that you're pointing out contradictions between the two pairs of notes, or the two pieces of paper, right? So you've got a list of paper, and on one side you've got her notes, and the other side you have his notes, and you compare them, and you point out a contradiction between the two. And I thought, I've never seen that done before, but it makes sense. So it works, because on the one hand, it's not even just I haven't seen it before. It's you're discovering things by pointing and clicking, which in turn writes down those things as observations. But then you're comparing those observations against someone else's observations, and you're finding the contradiction between the two. And it's just, I've never thought about that before. But so it really made me think, which is why I scored that so highly, which is I've not seen it done. So maybe mechanically it's similar to any other contradiction system, but I've just not seen it done in this way. So, and as for the other categories, I won't go into excessive detail, but I would say that it did a good job, right? The puzzles were solvable, and there was a surprise at the end. So, yeah. All right. So moving on to second place with a score of 4.38. So barely above the other one, to be fair. These were neck and neck in terms of scoring. Is the Yearbook. And I really, really enjoyed this one. So again, I want to show you a screenshot of the game so you can sort of get an idea of what it's like, but just I guess before I do that, I'll read a description. A devastating fire tore through Eldermere Preparatory School's 15-year reunion. The flames are out, but the truth is still out there, buried in the ashes. It's time to find out what happened. And I mean, quite honestly, the title and the thumbnail does a great job of selling the experience. Just from a marketing standpoint, I think it's really good. I was immediately intrigued. I was curious about how a yearbook could be integrated into a game like this and everything like that. You know, we have a large cast of characters that I want to know more about, and we're going to use the yearbook to get to know them more. And I was genuinely impressed by this game. Yeah. So as you can see here, this is again the screenshot taken from the game page. You can see that the game works in the sense of having basically one picture. It's really fascinating too, from a minimalist standpoint, that there was essentially one scene in the game, other than once you fill this out, there's a report you have to fill out afterward. But there's essentially only one screen in the game, and other than the yearbook itself, right? You have to look through the yearbook, which has details on the characters. And by analyzing the yearbook, I don't want to show it because it has clues in it, right? But you know, when you analyze the yearbook and you look at the clues in the yearbook, you are able to piece together things. And so this game did a really good job. I mean, obviously, it did a good job with the artwork. I think the art's nice. The music I also thought was pretty good too. It was easy to listen to on repeat for 2 hours, which is how long it took me to solve this. But because honestly, this is one of those games that seems more like a, you know, I guess some people might describe it as Return of the Obra Dinn, like, because you're piecing together things and filling out a report at the end. You know, you're piecing together characters, you know, who was there, how they died, and things like that, right? It was a very minimalist take on that. But I think the uniqueness of the 15-year gap was really interesting, because I think that's what made it a unique experience, because you're looking at a yearbook, which in the story was printed 15 years ago, and the characters who died, they came back to a 15-year anniversary, like a meetup of everyone who had graduated 15 years ago. So the time gap of that, which now that I think about it, maybe counts toward the theme a little bit, but the time gap of that is a really interesting dynamic, because it's not just piecing together who died right then and there, it's piecing together who died based on a piece of evidence that was 15 years in the past. And through that, you're able to figure things out, like, oh, this person had this thing happen to them 15 years ago. So it's still likely, if you look at them now, they're still likely to have that part of their character still intact that way. And so it from a solvability standpoint, it was extremely solvable. As soon as you get 3 characters, they get locked in, and you can cross them off your list. Like, okay, I've figured out who those 3 are, which helps with process of elimination on the remaining ones. And so you can start off by saying, okay, this person, you know, clearly based on the yearbook or based on the, you know, what was found, the evidence that was found, clearly we can rule them out. We can place them here, we can place them there. And then slowly but surely you get from the obvious ones to the not so obvious ones. And admittedly, by the end, I was a little stuck between a few. I was really convinced that there were some people who had to be in certain spots, but I tried a few times and got them in the right spots by the end. But I was satisfied that, okay, it makes sense that why they're all there. It makes sense. So yeah, the yearbook itself, I think they did a good job with the yearbook. They made it like the actual interface of it. I think they did a good job with writing the little stories or vignettes or whatever of each person. And there were some hints in there and clues in there. Like for every deduction that you're supposed to make on these characters, I was able to find at least one clue that supported it. So to me, it was extremely solvable and really well done as far as that's concerned. Now, for surprise, I'm not going to spoil any surprises, but I will say that out of all the games I played in the Game Jam, this one legitimately surprised me. I don't know if that's true for the other judges. In fact, I'm not sure if it was, but for me personally, I was blown away by the twist of this game. Because the answer of in my mind, I had pieced together all of the deaths before I even thought about who would have, you know, how the building would have caught on fire in the first place, right? Um, right. I didn't think about that at all. I'm just like, okay, let's identify who died, when, and where. And then only at the very end did I even stop to think and consider how the fire started. And when there came a point, because this was a 2-hour playthrough for me, there came a point, and fortunately for me, unfortunately I should say, I had to stop several times during that 2 hours to go take care of certain things that kept popping up, and I was distracted, this and that, and I came back to it, and I sat down at my computer one last time, and all of a sudden it just clicked in my head, like, wait a minute, and I just had a moment that, and then I checked the yearbook, and I look at the yearbook, I'm like, whoa, that was there the whole time, and that's how you do it. That's all I can say is, like, that's how you do it, is have the answer in front of them the whole time, and they don't notice it. But when they look back, they're like, yeah, it was there the whole time. I just didn't see it. And to me, that just blew my mind. So, so I would say that was a really powerful surprise. And it was satisfying too. That's the other aspect of that. Interactivity wise, yeah, I mean, it's nothing that Obra Dinn hasn't done before, but they did such a good job of it that it was well done. And yeah, I think I covered everything. The jam theme, obviously, when a fire is going, there's only so much time that the characters have to escape it. So, yeah, the characters ran out of time, right? So, admittedly, I think that's probably the weakest part of it, but I think the rest of it was really, really, really solid. So, well done to the yearbook. I enjoyed that a lot. And finally, I have to hold my mouse button. I accidentally clicked it. First place, and also the winner of the public vote, which are two distinct awards, honestly, because it's not easy to do both. And with a score from the judges of 4.52 is Loop of Faith. So this game did a lot of things right, obviously. And I would say by far it was the best example of the jam theme that any game had done in the jam. And so once again, I will show a screenshot so you can sort of see how the game plays. So yeah, big round of applause for Loop of Faith, because in the game, as the game page says, you are a newly appointed priest on an Irish island 2 centuries ago. Alas, murder strikes as you arrive, and you're entrusted to investigate. Interrogate suspects, collect clues, and see this murder mystery through to the end. But beware, some mysterious force is tracking you down and the clock is ticking. So, there's a lot to this game when you started playing it, because as you can see in the top right corner, there is a big clock. And every action that you take basically consumes 1 hour off the clock, because there's 24 actions. And so there's 24 hours in a day, 24 actions. Okay, sure, I get it. But what's really cool about this is that at the end of the day, your time is up. Basically, you get attacked or whatever by some mysterious force, and you're done for, right? Except, I guess because you're a priest, you're magically brought back to life and can start over again. But the cool thing, because this was not just a time loop game, like Liana's Loop is a time loop, but this game's also a time loop game, but in the gameplay sense, in that everything that you did on the previous run helps you do more things on the next run, which is what I was really wanting to see in terms of interactivity. And the jam theme was, I want to see how people can utilize time to make future playthroughs more interesting instead of just as a pure time limit. And this game successfully did that. So, yeah, it does a really good job of it, because as you can see on the bottom right, there's a little notebook which allows you to review the information that you've already gathered. And the useful thing is that you don't need to regather that information every time that you play the game, right? Every loop, you keep the info you already know. You don't need to ask it again. So it's kind of like you're in a time loop yourself. As the character learns more information, you also learn more information. And so you're always connected in sync with the player character, or the avatar of the player. And so there's no, as the saying goes, there's no ludonarrative dissonance, to use a fancy term, where the character in the story is doing something different from you as the player. You actually are in synchronized perfectly with that. Um, Now, also, what's also kind of interesting is that in order to successfully accuse the culprit, there are certain items that you need to collect in a certain order. And so that also ticks down the clock. And so there's a very interesting balancing act where even though you have the advantage of uh, even though you have the advantage of remembering everything from the last loop, you still are constrained by what you need to get within the current loop and doing things in the correct sequence. And this could easily be expanded, um, into a further concept. In fact, I should mention all three of these games in some way, shape, or form um, could be expanded, or maybe the developers intend for them to be expanded in some way, um, which also makes me happy to give them access to Mystery Maker because maybe they'll be able to use it and benefit from that. But there's so much to the system that can work, and so in a much bigger game, right? The only downside I will say about this game is that once you get to the ending, it just ends very abruptly. But I can sort of rationalize that as a constraint to the game jam. But it was a successful experience from start to finish, and I thoroughly enjoyed all of it. The mystery was very solvable. I was able to solve it before the character said it in the game. I was able to predict it, so definitely solvable. There were some surprising twists in there. Let's say about the nature of the mysterious force that was mentioned. The nature of that is a twist. In fact, honestly, to me, the twist of just coming back to life after you run out of time is a twist. Curiosity. I mean, there's this whole world to explore. Satisfaction, was very satisfied by the answer. Every question was answered and they all made sense. And immersion wise, I mean, the art style was amazing. The music was good. And it just very, very subtle details. Like, you can see in this screenshot, there's the church. But if you go down the hill and around to the other side of the island or wherever, you can still see the church from a different point of view. So like everything was consistent. Like you were able to see from wherever you were, probably from more than one background, but you were able to see where different other points in the story were. And it just really made the whole thing feel like one interconnected world that I was actually navigating and getting to know better. And actually being able to see like, okay, this thing makes sense to be in this location, it makes sense for the bone to be by the gravestone. It makes sense for the cross to be on the statue thing there, right? Like just the subtle details of where things are, and why they're there, is very subtle. And that's also a part of it, is that you have to navigate across parts of the island, which takes up time. So you need to actually plan a route from point A to point B, such that you get all of the items wherever they are and take them to where they need to go before time is over. And that was just, it adds some strategy layer on top of the mystery solving. So I would say that's very well deserved. And I think apparently everyone agrees because it won pretty much unanimously across the three of us as judges, as well as the public vote. Yeah. Yeah. I'm very happy you're happy because you did an excellent job. So I think that about wraps up our discussion on the winners here. So congratulations to, again, everyone, but also especially to the prize winners. So what happens next? So, wow, this took a full hour. This took a full hour to do. All right. So if you want a prize, check your email shortly for instructions because I have to actually type up the emails now. I have to send them out. That's going to be during our little intermission here. Otherwise, just remember the real prize was the experience of making your games. Keep making mystery games and have fun doing it. Remember, I started out doing this 20 years ago. It took me, and really when I think about it, it took me years of trying again and again to actually build up the muscle memory to get good enough to put out Detective Butler, the first game I made. The only reason I think that was so successful as it was because I had roughly, I guess you could say, 5 years of practice building up to it. That I didn't ship any games. I just practiced on my own. And then once I finally put it out there, it turned out to be really good. But it doesn't happen overnight, right? You have to practice. You have to keep trying and put in the effort. But when you do that enough and you don't give up, pretty amazing things can happen. So, yeah, even if you didn't win, please know there were a lot of really good games in this, and all of you did a really good job. And to just keep making mystery games and having fun. Now, I will also mention, because of Mystery Maker being a prize, Mystery Maker is currently live, and I really hope that it works. We'll go through this together to make sure that it does work as intended. But I will say that I'm a little nervous about this because it's the most ambitious thing I've ever built. But yeah, the prize winners will get free access to Mystery Maker for their specified amount of time. And as for everyone else, so I will say this. Tier 1, the solo tier, is currently available to everyone. The studio tier, which is what the prize winners have received, is at the moment only going to be available to them, just because I want to make sure that everything in it works properly. So I don't want to roll that out because there are a lot of complicated features in that. I don't want to roll out to everyone just yet. I will roll it out eventually to everyone, but we'll start slow and take our time and do things right. That's kind of my preferred approach to things. But if anyone ever has any problems using the tool or struggles setting it up or whatever, just reach out to me in the Discord or send an email to the support email on the website. I will be more than happy to reach out and help people with this because I want to make it the best tool that it can be. So, I'm as confident as I can be that it's ready for public release. It's just that nervousness of, something can always go wrong at any time, and I don't know what it is, but maybe maybe it's about time. I've been working on this for, the most recent version of this, the past 5 or 6 months is, calling it Mystery Maker for 5 or 6 months. When you really think about the underlying systems and ideas behind it, which are part of the Mystery Academy, that's been something I've been working on for at least 1.5 years, if not the full 3 years I've been doing Mystery Game Dev, the group, the organization. And so on that note, I will say Mystery Academy is something that I really wanted to have ready by today, but it's not ready. It's almost there. It's like 90% done. And that's kind of the rebranding of the Mystery Masterclass. And it's just all of the ideas and frameworks and systems that went into designing Mystery Maker as a tool. Those are the things you can learn from Mystery Academy that I'm going to hopefully get out very soon. I want to say next month, but don't hold me to that, please. Every time I think I'm close to getting it out, something else comes up. So I really want to get it out next month. I really wanted it to be out right now, but I prefer to just do one thing at a time and do it right. So for today, we have mysterymaker.app. You can go there to purchase it. It's a web interface, and actually it's a free trial. So everyone essentially, in a way, gets a prize because you get 2 weeks free, regardless of how well you did in the jam. Everyone gets it 2 weeks free, but then after that it's paid. Okay, so hopefully if there are any issues, we can resolve it within these 2 weeks. But I don't think that there will be. But if there are, I want to do my best to make sure everyone is satisfied. So, yeah. I think that's about it from me. Are there any final comments or questions from people before we take our little intermission here? Because it's been a full hour, and yeah, quite a ride. I'm glad I've got enough sleep for this, though. I have a lot more. I'm a lot more well rested than I was for the launching the jam. So. Yeah, that's right. There were some very, very awesome games that were prologues or demos that have incredible potential as actual games that unfortunately just didn't score well as entries in the competition. So, shout out to those games as well. Yeah. All right. I guess if you guys want to stick around for the Mystery Maker demo, just hang tight and we'll do that. So let me just upload this video so you guys can, well, I'll upload this later. We'll do the Mystery Maker demo, but I got to send out the emails to the winners. So as soon as we do that, we'll do the demo. The launch. We're launching. It's not a demo, but I will show you and we'll have fun. We'll make some mysteries.